Why, hello there, viewer. Thank you all for the support I received on my first old school Q&A review. Most of you who have seen it seem to like it, and I like to keep doing them. This time, I did it last time as well, I didn't announce it during the video, but I put in the description timestamps to various subjects where I feel that I offer some substantial response to one of the questions or a topic brought up. So do check the description if you're not interested in watching this whole video. Also, I'll be playing this video at 1.25 speed as Randalicious did, because I do find that is more practical. Also that I tend to talk faster than most other people. So without further ado, let us begin.
Hello and welcome to this week's old school RuneScape Q&A after a dodgy start. I'm going to introduce the couch as normal. We've got from your, I always get this wrong, left, we have Mod Bruno.
Hello.
Mod Munro.
Hello.
On my left, your right, we have Mod Kieran.
You're right.
And a new face on the sofa this week. Please welcome Mod Tide.
Hello.
So, so yeah, those of you who have seen on Twitter will know we've got a new, well, how about you tell us what your role is actually before I say it all for you.
I am a junior content developer for old school RuneScape.
He's our new junior content developer. So yeah, let's do the little introduction spiel. We'll start with, well, how are you finding it so far? How long have you been here?
I've been here now since Monday. I'm finding it's a challenge, but I'm enjoying it. I'm learning a lot.
That's good.
First thoughts on the RuneScript.
Yeah. No, my thoughts on RuneScript.
Yeah.
It's different.
Fair play.
Yeah. Gotta learn it in a different way.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't know anything about code. I'm not smart enough for all of that, but I understand it's completely different to any other sort of script or language. Is it unusual in any way?
Not really. It's got similarities, but it is different.
So, what's your history with old school?
I've been playing old school since 2006. I stopped playing when the Evolution of Combat came out, but then started playing again when the Revolution Combat came out, and I've been playing ever since.
Cool, well, that's good to know. You're sort of the archetypal old school player in that sense then. So yeah, if you want to check out Mod Tide and follow what he's up to, it'll be interesting to see all the content he comes out with and as he's learning. You can, I think it's _newmod in the chat. We'll link you straight to his Twitter, drop him a follow. Don't go too hard on the Tide Pod memes, we knew that was coming. So I'm going to do some more announcements. Sorry, just gathering myself. So the Kebos poll is still up. The post-launch changes are in-game. I think we're leaving that open until late Friday, sort of our time. You can expect that to close around sort of 5, around that sort of time.
Two things I want to say here. Number one is in the past I've usually done a, do I call them poll review? I don't think so, but I would give my thoughts on the current poll running in the game, make a video of that. I'm not sure if I'll do it for the current poll that Mod Gambit just mentioned, because a lot of the topics in that are covered in the Q&A, and also I'm not super well versed in PVM and all the new content. I know Kebos Lowlands isn't like only PVM, but even still I'm not that well versed in the type of stuff that's being added to the game. So maybe not. I don't know if I'll do a video on that. Second thing is, I forgot to say in the beginning that if there's a question or something that I have no opinion on or don't care enough to comment on, then I'll just let the video continue to play. I won't pause the video just to fill the gap, unless there's a request that I feel so strongly that if I feel so strongly that it's like a really bad request and I can't believe it actually made it onto the Q&A, I may just pause for a second and be like, no, and then continue playing. But other than that, if I have nothing substantial to say, I think, if I have nothing to say, then I'll just let the video keep playing. I won't pause it.
So still time to vote if you haven't yet. I think so far it's going well. Pretty much everything is passing, if I'm not mistaken, but still worth voting. Make sure to get your thoughts and opinions counting. Speaking of, well, one of the questions, which is actually I think at 95%, is pretty certain, is the Alchemical Hydra head. So we didn't get to release this with the launch itself. I think it was just due to time constraints and dev time. But we'd like to add that now, and so that will come with the Slayer helmet, as well as the jar of chemicals, I think we're calling it,
Yep.
which is going to be for the standard display case with the Alchemical Hydra in it, which I think we have a GIF of. I'm going to show it off to you now. This is Mod Ghost's beautiful work. As always, he's, well, made an awesome design there. What do we like about this the most, guys?
The tubes are pretty cool, the pipes.
I like the pipes. I like the Hydra. It all looks sick to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that looks really good.
The whole posing of it in its own environment, as well as it's the last phase of that boss you just killed.
These are one of the favourite things I think we've ever added. Like, these duplicates are just sick, making the little miniature versions of the boss environment. Love it.
I really like how all the colours blend together.
Yeah, and it's really nice that this one has sort of a bit of the environment that you find the boss in the case. I think that looks awesome. In other sort of Zaya-related news, you can expect a blog out soon that was been written by Ash, which is going to include all sorts of quality of life changes for Chambers of Xeric. We know you guys have been asking for it for a while, so we're going to deliver those to you soon. I think actually it's going to be up, if I'm not mistaken,
at the end of this.
sometime during the stream, maybe towards the end. That'll be live, so keep an eye on the news section of the website for that.
Yeah, I think that's something we've been talking about for a while. We've sort of promised it midway through last year and we just got around to it. So apologies, it's taken a while, but yeah, make sure you give any feedback on that.
Yeah,
I
so-
will interject here real quick to say that I think it's a good thing. Even though I have never done Chambers of Xeric and I might, but probably won't ever. I think it is good that they are taking time to go back and polish some of the old content before jumping to the shiny new thing. I think that's something that should happen more often, that they go back and revisit the old content, see what's problematic about it, and then try to correct that. Even on content that people don't necessarily agree, or content that's obviously problematic that people like to take advantage of. Well, that's kind of another thing entirely, but I am all for the team going back and doing fixes and improving things rather than leaving what's currently existing and then looking toward the next shiny new update they can advertise.
So, something that's been asked about quite a lot is the last release of the year. The last big one is going to be obviously warding. So I want to give an announcement out now that players can expect an inbox or email in the next few days. I think on Friday, actually. I think 50,000 or so of you are going to receive this. It's going to be an invitation to give your opinion on warding.
Ooh.
This is just to get more sort of concentrated data to see who likes it, who doesn't. If you don't like it, which maybe a few of you in chat aren't so keen at this point, I know a lot of you are.
Ask
For those of
me,
you
I
that
have
aren't, we want to know
opinions.
why, and we want to know what we can
Ask
improve
me.
or change to change some of your no's into yeses.
Comment on my YouTube video.
So keep an eye out for that. Make sure to keep checking your email and inbox as of Friday. You may be invited to be part of that discussion. And, well, everyone else is still a welcome part of the general discussion. We still want to know your thoughts. We're constantly on the lookout for anything we can do to improve the current design. I think that's about it for the announcements. I guess we'll just move straight on to the questions. I'm going to thank Mod Tide for his time and joining us here on the couch.
Thank you.
I'm going to sub in.
I do want to interject here real quick to say that last Q&A, Mod Gambit was not complaining, but he mentioned several times that he had a shortage of questions. This time, I was actually able to get on the Reddit thread where they ask the community for questions. I have a question, and if Mod Gambit remarks again that he has a shortage of questions, and mine isn't one of them, I actually have a suggestion. I won't say what it is in case it's actually in the Q&A, but I have a suggestion. And if he doesn't say it, but he says there are a shortage of questions, I'm going to be upset. I think then he'd be lying. Or at least whoever's doing the job gathering the questions is not doing a great job. But that's only if those two conditions are true. I only say that because it's something to look forward to as a viewer. Now you
a familiar
anticipate my
face,
question.
Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor.
I'm sure you'll see more Mod Tide soon, right?
Oh, he's going already? No!
Would you look who it is?
Yeah, it is.
We're making it as awkward as possible. Oh, you just sit here in silence while Archie puts his
Yeah.
mic on.
Well, we could have answered the question. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's much better just to go in silence. Oh, wait.
Lots of pog in the chat. Well, welcome back to the couch, Mod Archie. It's been a fair while, I understand.
It has been, yeah, thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and ask you some PvP-related questions,
Okay.
because I believe you've got a little bit to talk about. The first being sort of, what is the state of the Bounty Hunter rework that was promised in October during RuneFest? Can you sort of give
Oh, forgive me, I accidentally muted my microphone. I said, I don't know much about Bounty Hunter or PvP, so I'll probably not have probably not much to say. But I do think that JMods, they're trying so hard for PvP, but the community doesn't want it. And that's kind of I hope that the community's lack of supporting PvP, mostly like, from coming from Reddit, their like, their sentiment against players will encourage Jagex or allow Jagex to see that allowing a hive mind to dictate much of the many decisions of the future of the game is not optimal.
On where we're at.
I mean, you'll know just as good as I will, if not better, on this one. Unfortunately, it's kind of sitting on the back burner. We don't have a competitive gaming developer at the moment, but we have just hired a new developer, as you know, and there's no one coming, I think, very shortly, maybe even in March. So hopefully we'll be able to see some things like that pick up and move along nicely.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of my involvement, we're going to have a design meeting soon, and we're going to collect some, just to flesh out the design a bit more before presenting it to you guys.
Yep.
And we're going to try and involve some of the highest ranked bounty hunter players, clans and whatnot, to get your guys' opinion to make sure it is just how you want it to look. So that's where we're at with that. We do apologise for the delay. It was just a case of trying to get all of the updates in at the end of last year, and we want to make sure we didn't sort of present something that wasn't ready, essentially. So.
Yeah, I think that's actually a decent point. We're really going to look for feedback, I think, after this Q&A, specifically around the bounty hunter tasks. So for those unfamiliar, the concept is very similar to Slayer, but for PvP, and bounty hunter specifically. So an NPC would look at your account, assess your stats and your build, and then give you a task. So maybe if you're a max main, it would look at you and say, kill your next target with a full set of barrows equipped. You have to have the barrow set equipped as you kill the opponent, and that's it. You get your points, rewards, still up for debate and all these things, but we're really looking for tasks, I think, at this point, because that's an easy one. That one, that's a pretty obvious one. But what about the accounts that are like 33 in all stats? What are they going to have as tasks? So we really want to flesh out these things and make sure we have things actually concrete and viable for all different builds, more than just a handful. These are things we'd like to lean on you guys for. So look into feedback, or look into the social channels for feedback after this, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah, and I particularly like bringing in, or looking to speak to specific players and getting a better representation from the bounty hunter community. And I think it's something I'd like to start doing with more updates in general. Is make sure we really do bring in your opinion from the player base as well. I think it was something we're throwing around, like when we were talking about the Konar drop table. We all know it obviously ran into a lot of issues, and hopefully now that, I'm not sure what the opinion of it is now, but hopefully it's in a better place, that we actually discussed the idea of going to the extent of bringing up the drop table in a spreadsheet on this stream and chatting to you about it until we came to a conclusion. Like, I really do.
That's an interesting idea. Obviously, it has its pros and cons. I'm not sure if it would be a great idea, because then, like, if they start doing that, then the players are going to expect to have more power in the future as to how balancing goes. And obviously, like, the problem with democracy is that it works until the people realize they can vote themselves more gold. So, I don't know. I think the JMods need to take more charge when it comes to, like, balancing. Like, I think they've done a great job listening to player feedback. They've done a great job at, like, I think they are too open to player feedback. I think that's the problem now. It's like in the RS3 days, or even before RS3, the problem was JMods wouldn't listen at all. They were in their ivory towers as a documentary, to use a language from the RuneScape documentary. But now it's like, you guys are the game developers. The players are not game developers. It's incumbent upon you to know how to develop your game correctly, not to outsource that to the players to appease them for a temporary period of time. Until years later you realize that you catered to the players so much that your game is actually in a lower state of quality than it was before in certain aspects.
Like, as a team, we want to, make sure we have that, like, dev team linked to the player base, and this is a perfect example of trying to make sure they're involved.
Yeah, for sure, and hopefully that will show when it comes to writing the blog and having the ideas ready to present to you guys. So I'll move on to the questions. The first couple are PvP related. Ian Spam wants to know if we can have, we've actually covered already a couple of these points, but the first question he has is, can we have an update on any dead man changes? He also asks about the competitive gaming team, but I think Archie just touched on that, as well as Bounty Hunter. So yeah, I guess GMM is the question. What's the update?
Sure. I mean, all I can really say at this point is we have a very impressive backlog, compiled of so many different exciting ideas from the player base. There's not a shortage of ideas, I should say. But as far as the competitive gaming dev goes, as I just said, we don't have one at the moment. We've just hired a new dev. We've got another one on the way. So that's all I can really say there. But for Deadman, I believe I can say you should hope to hear something by next week.
Okay.
I do want to interrupt here. I think it's cool that they're talking about having like a competitive dev, like a JMod specifically dedicated to the competitive like PvP scene. It'd be cool if they had like a JMod dedicated to the integrity of skilling. That'd be fantastic. Or even just skilling itself, skilling period. They talk about like content developers they want to keep recruiting. What about like content integrity specialists? I want to see more of those. And ones that specialize in different areas, PvP, PvM, skilling. That'd be fantastic.
C Engineer also happened to pitch in with some suggestions. Just going to quick fire them to get your guys' opinion, particularly yours, Modarchi. So he wants a 6-second combat timer when your opponent doesn't attack back. Is that? I'm not a PK myself, so I'm not the best.
So what decides if your opponent doesn't attack back? How long have you been hitting? I guess you're not going to. Okay. C Engineer. Maybe a little bit more in depth with that one, but yeah.
Okay. If difficult to answer, maybe we'll get him to specify.
Yeah. I'll tweet it.
Yeah.
How about a telebox sound or message when the timer runs out?
Yeah.
That seems reasonable.
Seems
Right?
reasonable.
Yeah. It doesn't alert you to when you're free.
An in-game timer to display how long you have left to attack a player who's in the safe zone.
Definitely that one. Definitely, yeah. So when you're in PvP worlds, you can still attack people when they run into the Grand Exchange safe zone, for example, or any of them. But you don't know how many hits you can get in, so you're just kind of hoping the last hit will do it. Yeah.
From what I remembered, I did bring this up when we was testing the actual job which came with this change, and I think the reason why we didn't do it is because it was probably too complex. So obviously, it's old school RuneScape. You got have
Too
everything
complex.
in
Hold the phone. These third-party clients, these people doing it for free are able to do it, but you guys can't? I don't believe this.
like RuneScape 3. So some of the things I had to push back on. This one being one of them.
That's fair. And the last suggestion was removing the water fountain in Lumbridge on PvP worlds, I believe it is. I think the issue here is you'll get lots of bots running because it's a very close bank with the chest to the water fountain to fill up vessels with water. Not particularly PvP related necessarily.
Yeah, not. I mean,
No,
there was a
it's
suggestion to put the another Alcovite gate there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
We should probably do something about that, but that's not really PvP related.
No.
But I suppose we could just, well, maybe we can just make it so the fountain can't be used as a water source for that particular instance.
We can make it so the fountain's dried up on that world or something.
Yeah, there's something we can do for that, I think.
Sure. Okay, so I'll move on to the rest of the questions. The first one I'd like to address was, I didn't put a name on this because there's quite a few people asking about it, but they want to know what happened to the bone whip, which was suggested in the revised version of the poll blog, but pulled before we put the poll live. Well, it's two parts, but I'll ask first what happened to the bone whip, essentially. That's the question.
I wasn't in the
No.
I mean, I've got an answer. It's essentially that we didn't feel it was the right time or place to put it in. So for those of you who don't know, the idea was to take the Hydra tail, which I think is currently only used to make the Bone Crusher necklace.
Yeah.
And we wanted to, well, we offered the idea of creating a tier, I think it was 72 attack, combining it with the whip to create this new whip with stats sort of halfway between the standard whip and the Tentacle Whip. But it just sort of felt out of place, and in response to the feedback, we thought we could probably do something better with this style of weaponry.
I like this a lot. I very much like how they're taking a moment, taking a breather, to not put this in the game and then fix it. They want to, before they put in the game, they want to take a step back, see if it actually fits within the game. I very much appreciate this.
There were suggestions like adding a strength option on it, but because of the invisible strength bonus, I think that would have made it too strong, despite many other sort of uses it might have received.
Plus, it would have meant making a new category of whip for that whip in particular if we'd added strength bonus to that.
Right.
Well, it would have devalued the Sarah Sword and
And that was also the thoughts. Sarah Sword and Blessed Sarah Sword.
Depends how much we care about that, though.
Yeah.
And the second sort of part of that question was, what did we think of other designs that came up in response to it? So I saw things like a dragon scimitar, which was upgraded to a bone scimitar, which looked very cool. I don't know what stats were proposed or if there were any. There was that, and also
there's a flail.
Yeah.
There's like every combination.
There's loads of different things going around with different bone
I think we
weapons.
have an image of the bone flail. There we go.
That's the thing is, it just looks cool and it sounds cool,
It
so it's
looks
like we should
amazing.
do it.
We should do something with that.
I thought it was very cool, and I'd like to do something with it at some point in the future, but it didn't feel like the right place. I mean, I know a lot of it's just that players want a sort of one-handed crush weapon around tier 70. But yeah, maybe that's something we can do in the future. Looks pretty good.
On the topic of whips, I saw a point brought up that affects PvP with whips.
Yeah.
And it sounded like a pretty big problem to me that I wasn't really aware of that was a thing. Comes into two categories. Firstly, the tent whip. Tent whip's obviously quite a big boost over using the regular whip. And if you're PKing against someone using a tent whip or using one of your stuff, the risk is so much lower, right, than using a whip. Because if you manage to kill someone who's got a tent whip, you don't get really rewarded for it. You get the Kraken Tentacle, which is not worth anything, really.
Yeah.
While the whip, which is worth 2.5, 3 mil, whatever it is nowadays, goes to dust, right?
Yeah.
I don't know much about PKing, but I do know this very problematic mechanic about using a Tentacle Whip in PvP. I don't understand why this hasn't been fixed already. Maybe he's about to say it's about to be fixed. But something like this is like something, this should be making sure what you have in your game is working before moving on to the next thing. I think it is much more important than has been for the team thus far. And I say that trying to use the words of Mod Mark, because that's what he said, like, oh, the problem with RS3 is that we tried to do so much more, but we didn't take a moment to go back and see what was wrong, which is why I appreciated, like, them not putting in the Bone Whip immediately. And this problem Kieran describes, like, it kind of, I'm not a PvPer, right? But if I were, or a PKer, but if I were, it would kind of blow my mind that this mechanic exists. And I'd have a hard time understanding why the mods don't just have some kind of, or, okay, I can understand if they don't have a fix that they're ready to put out tomorrow. But what I would have trouble understanding is why this is not among, like, besides account security or something like that, actually, something of that level. I don't understand why this sort of thing is not one of the top priorities of making sure, like, the game is, at least the activity of player killing doesn't have any obvious deficiencies that could be easily resolved, for lack of a better way of putting it.
And then the other kind of whip, the lava and ice ones, because they're untradeable, you can just drop them if you know you're going to die, and hence you don't lose them. When really, obviously, the other player should be getting your whip, right?
Yeah, so the main problem here is PvP is already very difficult to be profitable. You have to be very skilled. You have to win, obviously, a majority of your fights and then pay for PKing supplies and such. And when you're killing somebody and you're risking something like a whip or a Kraken Whip, and you kill them for theirs and you're not even getting that much in return, it's just demotivating. So definitely in favor of bringing that up to scratch. So making sure you
The JMods are in favor of a lot of things that are good, but they don't, like, just do it sooner rather than later. Don't focus on the next shiny thing. Fix what's broken now.
earn what you should.
The question is, how do we fix that?
Yeah.
Because right now you cannot get the whip back once you charge a Kraken whip.
Yeah. So the reason why we get the Kraken is because we want to sync whips, I guess. So how do we get around that?
Well, that's the question.
Yeah.
I mean, if people want to use tent whip in PvP, but they want it to have higher risk, I don't know. Maybe we need to approach it in a completely different way.
Yeah, I don't know how we get around the fact that
It'd have to be a broken tent whip and repair sort of deal.
Yeah, and then there's other issues as well. Personally, just personal opinions, I think things like the Avernic Defender should give more when you kill somebody with it.
Yeah, that
very
for
expensive
sure.
item and you only get a mil. Things like that, I think we should take a second look at.
Yeah, potentially for the Defender, there's maybe options of splitting out the hilt itself, perhaps.
Yeah.
But again, it's got the same issue the Tent Whip's got.
Or a bigger payout, bigger cost to repair
Yeah.
it, things like that.
Yeah.
The thing is, with the repair costs, we can change them. We can play with that. So I'm not too worried about that. With the lava and ice whips, we could prevent them from being dropped potentially.
We could just drop
Something like that.
potentially drop the whip instead, and then
So-
just get rid of the.
Are the dies tradable?
The dice are
And
tradable. The whips are tradable.
So why not make them,
The whip's tradable.
yeah, why not make the
Yeah.
coloured whips?
So that's good. That seems entirely reasonable to me.
Although I mean that's one of the selling points for non-PvPers is that you make the whip untradeable, right? Because it keeps it safe.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want people to rely on that anyway, because the death mechanics will likely change at some point. It's just meant to be a temporary thing that you don't lose on tradables.
Yeah.
I'd rather make that whip tradable if it's causing problems in PvP.
Yeah.
Why are people saying no to that? Just say no. Say why you're saying no.
Say yes. There we go.
There we go. So I'll move on to the next question from Splendid. This generated quite a lot of discussion, actually. It says, can we have new high-level skilling methods that award gold over experience, particularly for skills such as woodcutting, fishing, and mining? Even if they're
Alright, actually, I'll let him finish the question.
quest locked, we could give high-level resources that aren't dropped in PVM.
Well, yeah, I like this a lot. I think it would be great to have more methods that wouldn't necessarily be the highest XP, but it'd produce a lot of gold. I have no objection. The only objection I have is if a method turns out to be stronger than it was originally intended to be after the update or certain other updates, it should like it should either be immediately nerfed, or if it's not immediately nerfed, it should still be in the purview of the mods to integrity nerf it. Like, for example, the I think it was the update that allowed you to change what would be on top, or what would be the first option when hovering your mouse over an NPC, an attackable NPC, I think. Yeah, what the left click option would be if you hover your mouse over an attackable NPC, which ended up creating the Arty Knight method, if I recall correctly. And, you know, ask me, obviously, that should have not ever, they should have immediately patched that in some way. But given the track record of skilling by the mods, the updates are either hit or miss. Usually the miss is a lot worse than the hit, or a lot, whenever they miss something, whenever it's a miss when it comes to a skilling update, the misses are usually bigger misses than the hits are strong hits. So that's the only reason I would be opposed to this, is because I don't really trust the JMods to do it the proper way. As in, it wouldn't be super overpowered. It wouldn't be like Nightmare Zone or Arty Knights, where effort is like not even factored, or hardly even factored into the equation. As long as it's not 6-hour methods, it's like, it seems to be fine with the JMods, but let's see where they take this.
It seems like a lot of people don't want skilling to be profitable, and a lot do.
Oh, that's interesting.
I will say that there is some mining is worth quite a bit of money, particularly if you finish making friends with my arm.
Yeah.
Mining the different types of salt and different types of basalt and making the teleports to sell can actually get quite a lot of money for players. I can't remember how much it is.
Alright, two things I want to hit on here. Number one, I think that skilling should be, if there's profit in skilling, it should be more consistent. Alright, let me put it this way. Profit in skilling, or high level amount of profit in skilling, should be more of a consistent thing, whereas high amounts of profit in PVM should be more of an RNG rare thing. Now, of course, having rares in skilling is also great, but I think PVM, like, the problem with PVM and skilling is that in PVM, most of the profit is not based on valuables, or I don't want to say, I can't really say most, but I would say there's too many instances in PVM where constant drops or common drops are what's profitable, or what make it the most profitable, not necessarily the rare seeking. And in skilling, the problem is nothing's profitable except for like chins, but they're not even that profit. There are profitable stuff, but it's not like that profitable. But based on what they say, what the chat's saying, it doesn't seem like a popular idea to the chat, which is kind of interesting to me, because I don't know, I would think the chat likes more skilling methods, because with more skilling methods added, the likelihood that a skilling method will be abusable, like Arty Knights or Nightmare Zone or Rooftops or Zaya Runecrafting, and it won't be patched, is alarmingly high. So I'm very surprised they don't want more skilling methods to be added to the game.
It's power, but it's not very much XP at all, but the actual money you make from it is quite high, especially because you can note the basalt upstairs at the quest NPC.
So we're talking about skilling not giving enough gold.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
Just throwing this out there, maybe a bad idea, and we've already talked about Artisan. What about skilling tasks? So if somebody gives you a task and says, go cut me 450 magic logs, you cut the logs, you get the logs, and he rewards you potentially with something a little bit extra.
I'm not opposed. Like, here's... Yeah, I'm not opposed. Like, here's the thing. Monroe went off, well, he listed a few things that were profitable to do, but I'm not sure if many people do them, number one, but if they do, I've never heard of it. But the reason people don't do certain profitable things in skilling is because it's not efficient enough. Like, this is an important concept I talk about a lot when I'm talking about skilling methods and efficiency. No one who plays this game is efficient. and no one plays the game efficiently. Everyone just plays the game efficiently enough to justify the time they put into it. So if you're making like 600k per hour with whatever method Monroe just whatever method he just said, you're making 600k per hour in gold, but you're only making 20k per hour in XP, it's not going to be worth it for you to do that. So either a skilling method that would be profitable would either have to be high enough in XP and low enough in effort to justify putting the time into making that money, or just have to be so high in gold that it doesn't matter how much effort it is or how much XP it is. Let's see where they take this.
I'm pretty sure that's been asked before 100 times. I like it.
The farming contracts have gone down quite well, and that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, it's pretty much for one skill, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we can do similar things with the other skills. Maybe something for the Cook's Guild, which is not particularly exciting at the moment. Maybe have the chef there ask you to make, I don't know, 100 pies of that.
I think a pie contract thing is cool because the pies are actually, why the heck are you going to make pies yourself, really? Because it's so much a pain. You got to get the dough, put it in the dish, get the ingredients, and so on. So there's quite a few steps, but you obviously can mix it up. There's also there's that place in Zaya, I think it's called the Mess, where you do the pies and pizzas and etc., which is actually quite effective but quite underused. And so I like the gameplay there, and that you are doing these different cooking items, and so there's potentially a lot to play with. But in terms of skills and to profit, it doesn't seem unreasonable to me if you have the right idea for content or what.
Yeah. Well,
happy to offer it.
You can still do your skilling as you would. This wouldn't be a meta to give you more experience per hour. So you're not devaluing anything like that. You're just making a little bit more money by adding a little bit of variety. So.
Oh, my mistake. I accidentally muted again. This is what I object to. What he just said. He just said that it wouldn't affect the meta because you're not getting the maximum XP per hour. I'm glad the mods are conscious of XP per hour, but they're not conscious enough about effort. Like, I guess that would be why effort is a very, very, very important factor. Because for many, like, even let's just take agility, for example. Swimming is the most efficient method. Because you get, like, if you're not 200 mil thieving, swimming is the most efficient method. In the amount of thieving and agility XP you get from swimming, it's equivalent to getting 90k XP, agility XP per hour. Now, most people at a high level will, even efficient players, quote unquote, will opt to do RD rooftops, which is up to 62k XP per hour. That's almost 30k XP less per hour doing RD over doing swimming. And I'm not even talking about people who use multiple accounts. I'm talking even people who are solo players. They'll opt to do RD roof, despite swimming being more efficient. But the problem is that given that RD roofs are number one, so much more brain dead than swimming, and number two, skillers naturally are able to cope with the tedious nature of skilling and the repetitiveness more than other players, the effort saved doing a low effort method like RD Roof is worth more than the XP lost doing a method like swimming. Effort is a very, very important variable that I feel that non-skillers underrate. People who are like not in the high-level skilling community, I think, tend to assume that efficient players always do the most efficient. That's not the case at all. Everyone plays the game as efficiently as they can justify playing it. I think I said that better a few minutes ago, but the point still stands. A lot of people, given how effortless RD Roof is, can justify losing 28k XP per hour because of the effort saved. Not everyone can. Some people like to do swimming. Some people... I like to do Brim... I personally enjoyed Brimhaven, but... effort is a very, very important factor that's very underrated. That's why even people like Autumn Elegy I've been seen doing RD Knights instead of, like, you know, Pyramid Plunder or swimming. Because RD Knights are just... because the option is there, I can't justify... I can't justify expending the effort for the XP. Even if I'd rather do something like... even if I would enjoy Pyramid Plunder or swimming more, I just can't justify the effort I lose not doing the easier method. And I think that's very important. It's not as simple as, oh, if you like this method better, just do it. It's like, no.
I can't really see a no for this, other than potentially dev time. Is this an expensive project to work on?
Depends on which one.
Yeah.
If it's like Pi contracts or something like that, it's not too expensive at all.
Basically depends on what we end up coming up with for the design of the actual money-making methods for the skilling.
Sure. I could easily see this working with something like just making the guilds, again, more enjoyable to interact with, like the farming guild is. I mean, that's been sort of, that's set a really high bar for how good guilds are.
Everything's like looking at this guy's like, what is this?
This is true.
What can you do with the prayer guild? I mean,
So I'll move on. Actually, on a similar note, Ghost says farming overall is in a solid place now that the farming guild is there, but with the exception of hops, which are not used in contracts or planted in convenient areas. Can these be looked at, for example, with a brewing update, possibly involving the trouble brewing minigame, to make them more relevant?
there is a design for a brewing expansion rework, but it's such a big project, it's something that's not really used very well. We need a clear understanding of what can it do for us. Right now, the beers are essentially just the skill boosts, and for the most part, they're not even the best skill boosts. There's only a few skills where you really do need them. But yeah, there's a lot of quality of life that could easily be added to brewing, but right now, barely anyone does it at all. Press 1 in the chat if you've actually done brewing in the last 2. Everyone's going to lie, but
Yeah, of course they are.
but like we need a clear understanding of what can brewing do. What's its space in the game? Because right now it doesn't have one.
I can't remember which ale it is, but there's one which you need a mature version of. Is that Asgardian, for a clue?
Yeah, I think it's either Green
Man's Ale. There was a time when that was very profitable, just because not because it's a good item necessarily, but because it had a specific use and not enough people were making it.
Nobody can be bothered to make it, you just rather buy it.
Yeah.
The other thing is you need
Buy and
an
sell.
item called the stuff,
Yeah.
which I believe increases the odds of you getting mature ale.
Right.
Yeah.
But the stuff also comes from triple brewing, which is also dead, and no one does it. So there's so many problems, and it's quite unwind quite a lot of stuff there. One thing we could even do is make the stuff 100% mature ale when you use it, and that could make a big difference.
Yeah.
Can I grab a question from the chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody just asked what our thoughts are on potentially introducing the 3 points hit points system back. I don't know. Exponentially increasing hit points from instead of being 10 to be 100.
Oh, okay.
Not in favor.
I don't think so. No, I didn't like this in RS3 because maybe I was just accustomed to the 2-point hits, but I think it unnecessarily complicates the system. Very non-old school, very unnecessary. I haven't heard a good reason for it.
Favor personally.
Nor am I.
I think it's clear how the chat feels.
Okay, I said no.
I don't think there's anything to gain from doing it.
No. I mean, all it really does is just make you hit higher numbers.
Yeah.
It gives you the extra decimal point.
It's the type of thing that I think would be good to not introduce to old school ever, even down the line.
I think it's one of the
I
updates
agree.
that signalled the turning point for RuneScape.
I agree.
So it's definitely going to have a lot of bad feeling around it for some of our
Preach.
players.
Preach.
I'll say no more about it. Our next question is from Cleo, and they ask, what are your feelings towards the lack of PVM bosses where magic is the primary combat style?
I would love to do another boss.
To answer that question, my feeling is that ranged is overpowered. Nerf ranged. Stop trying to buff everything else to catch up to the ranged meta. Nerf ranged. There needs to be more nerfs.
With magic involved, but magic right now is a bit rubbish when it comes to standard combat. So pretty much right now, I mean, I know the Hydra generated some conversation about T-bow is always good, range is always the best. I mean, there's obviously a few fundamental problems that you all already know about. A blowpipe's really quite powerful, and T-bow is also quite good.
Then nerf.
But when it comes to actually designing a boss, standing at a distance works so much better for so many of the mechanics. Like you've got so much more scope for design when your player's not right next to the boss all the time. So that's one thing. But then it brings on to that topic of magic's a bit rubbish. So when it comes to normal attacks, tridents you go to, right? Its DPS is so low compared to like blowpipe that you have to make its range defense so high to even achieve that.
Yeah.
But secondly, obviously,
blowpipe.
the magic has some interesting options. We can cast the right sort of spell, cast different ancient spells, cast different elemental spells, whatever it is. But that can be quite tedious over a long time. So we need to be quite careful about what we design. I think the Sire is a good example. With Sire, we really did quite strongly force you to use ancient spells, right?
Yeah, you have to use smoke.
So you have to use certain ancient spells. And a lot of people found it frustrating and didn't like fighting Sire, at least not 100 times on the task.
Right.
Can I add a popular, unpopular opinion?
Go for it.
People want magic to be better because they want it to be more up to par with range. But if that's the case, could we consider making range a little bit less strong?
Yes! Yes! Bless Mod Archie, yes! Oh my gosh! It's like a light bulb went off in his head. Well, I'm not even, maybe he's been holding this back so long. But yes! Let's see what they say. I'm so happy.
I think
It's everything.
Yeah.
it's potentially.
I don't even play this game. Let's back this up real quick.
If that's the case, could we consider making range a little bit less strong?
I think
It's everything.
Yeah.
it's potentially a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think.
What? Both?
Bringing ranges top end down.
Both? Obviously, Kieran's a PVMer. People love their blowpipe.
And pushing magic a little bit further. I did see some suggestions for like, why can't we have another proper boss like the Daganov Mother? And it's just like, you wouldn't want to kill that 200 times in a row. It's frustrating that it changes colour. So, design-wise, there's definitely a lot to explore. I'd like to do it more, and I'd be keen to make that next boss a magic boss. In terms of nerfing blowpipe, what are people's opinions on that?
Everyone's got one now. No one wants to see it nerfed.
See, no one wants to see, of course no one wants to see it nerfed. Of course! Why would they ask for it to be nerfed?
That's what's happening in the chat.
Depends how, I think. I wouldn't want to touch the attack speed. I think that would be too controversial. Maybe something like reducing its accuracy a bit, just so your DPS isn't quite as strong.
I want to nerf the blowpipe.
No, nerf it!
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Panic cell.
What's your opinion, Mod Bruno?
Blowpipe's definitely strong.
You know, quite honestly, they should, like what they said, Panic Cell. What they should do is they should literally just do it overnight, no warning. There you go, blowpipe's nerfed. I don't really. They need to dev their own game. Of course, like maybe they were memeing when they said maybe Kieran was just memeing. It's like, oh, let's see what the community thinks. But you need to dev your own game and don't tell your players about these things that could influence the market or how they're going to profit off of balancing the game. It's like it's just kind of fix your game.
And I also would like another magic boss. Like Zora is really nice because magic works well and so does range. It's sort of like the best of both worlds. So yeah, it would be nice if we could have more bosses that use mage. Yeah. About the blowpipe, yeah. There's no way around it. Everyone knows it's really
Oh, wait, hold the phone.
pipe. Yeah. There's no way around it. Everyone knows it's really strong and it's really cheap. The only thing expensive about it is the darts you put in it. And
The scale
And it's really overpowered.
is quite
scale
expensive,
is
isn't it?
very
yeah, pretty expensive as well.
It's just the type of thing is like, you used to do a Jad pass, you could bring a crystal bow, you could bring this, you could do this. They'd all be viable, or at least to an extent, but now it's like, just bring a blowpipe.
Yep.
You just need a blowpipe.
Yeah, look,
we don't
see. Listen to Mod Archie. Do you see what's happening to your game? Fix it.
My rune crossbow for the first time. Just worlds apart from from the blowpipe now. I mean, something that would help with the magic boss, I think, is if there was some better sort of mage tank armor.
What would
to
help if blowpipe wasn't so overpowered?
you fight them? If only there was sort of a skill that could help you make that. Something along those lines would be really nice. Maybe that's part of the solution. Hint, hint.
Maybe
Actually, I want to pause here again real quick. Remember what Mod Archie just said about how back in the day before the blowpipe you had all these options available to you and they'd all sort of get the job done, at least like, you know, relatively good to each other? If you nerf, but now you have the blowpipe, it's like, oh, just bring blowpipe. If you nerf stuff, overpowered content like blowpipe, you automatically introduce, maybe not new, but more viable options without creating a single piece of content. Just by nerfing existing content, you create so much, or you can create so many new options without spending $1 on development time.
something to do with soul back.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
Something along those lines, perhaps.
Blood bar.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, like soul runes and blood runes, but in back.
It's about the halfway point. I think it might be worth clarifying, though the title says introducing Mod Tide. He's not actually on the couch right now, for people asking about him. He is back upstairs working on new content, presumably. So there you go. I'm not him.
Don't forget !new mod in the chat to, I think it'll take you to Mod Tide's Twitter page. Don't forget to drop him a follow to see what he's up to and track his progress. So our next question is from Raiden, and he says, you guys said previously that you would consider making Melee more viable as a whole for the Alchemical Hydra. Is this still happening? I'll tie this in with the Dragon Hunter Lance question as well, because some people want to see that be a bit more viable against the Hydra as well. This sort of also ties into the whole ranged being quite powerful at the minute for new bosses and just generally.
I think we were discussing that initially, whether we wanted to, firstly, whether we wanted to buff the D-Hunter Lance overall, and I don't think we need to. I think the player base made that quite clear as well. And then the other option was make Dragon Hunter Lance even better against the Hydra specifically. I don't remember where we got with that, but I believe we decided it just doesn't feel right to do that.
I think the problem we had really with making the Dragon Hunter Lance.
Alright. I agree. Right, it's not good to just make this one weapon specific, like really good against this one monster for arbitrary reasons because we want it to be good. But in the same token, when you have stuff like Twisted Bow, and especially Blowpipe, where they specifically make the boss, or they specifically have to design the boss's balancing around those weapons, that's an indication that what you're doing, or something about the weapon itself, is already wrong.
Better, specifically the Hydra, or even just making melee better against the Hydra, is still that you're probably going to want to range it when you're luring it on top of the vents. So even though we make melee better, it's still, for doing the mechanics of the boss better, you're still better to have a ranged weapon with you, especially for luring it and attacking whilst in the fire phase and things like that.
I've seen a few people develop a meta for meleeing Hydra, and to be fair, they're doing completely fine.
I did see a pretty good time that people would get with melee.
Yeah. So, my opinion, it's fine as it is.
And plus, I think the boss is actually in a good spot and it's working. Working all right.
I'd say so. In terms of the lance itself, there are people saying, what if we gave it a 30% bonus instead of 20? Much like the Dragon Hunter crossbow, but I think at that point it becomes insanely good for Rune Dragons. It's already, I think, the best thing for Rune Dragons in particular, with a good money. So I wouldn't want to go that far or anything like that. Mr. Prez asks if a version of the Farming Guild door fix can be implemented on the doors in the Barrows tunnels. Currently it's annoying to move through the tunnels when other players are using the same doors. First we update the players on the Farming Guild doors and let them know what the what the situation is there. This has been a bit of a thing.
Yeah, so
I guess I'll answer this question. I'm usually opposed to convenient scape, and I think Barrows has been like the way Barrows works is a very old school thing. So, like, I hate to use the word old school. Actually, hold the phone. Right here, I'm going to lay down a strict definition for whenever I say old school feel, what I'm referring to. I believe the old school feel describes a set of limitations that the player has had to work in since the inception of old school in order to navigate the world and do things. So, using that explicit definition of the old school feel and not some loose one that could range from nostalgia or whatever else, using that explicit definition, I feel like updating the Barrows doors to be more convenient, it flies very much in the face of the old school feel, very much in the face of those limitations, even if they're dumb limitations that don't make any sense whatsoever, that was due to just the way the game was designed like so many years ago. I still think we should at least be cautious, and maybe they're going to be, I don't know what their response is, we should at least be cautious about updating such things. I think the mods have some respect for that. Let's see where they take it.
So we heard your complaints about the Farming Guild doors again, with the mapping and the pathing from going to the bank and when you're clicking on different patches and going through. So we've updated them again and changed it so that there's no blocking anymore. So the pathing is fixed and you'll still get thrown out properly when your level's not correct. The only slight change with that is if you log in after your level's been boosted and you're now back down to below the requisite level, you'll no longer be inside the right area, as we had to do that just to be safe. And teleporting in with the Spirit Tree with the incorrect level is now going to teleport you to the same location as the skills necklace inside the Farming Guild.
Yeah. It works really well now. So previously what we tried to do was get rid of people complaining that you'd click on the door and then someone else would click on the door so you'd stop. So instead we decided, well, there's no door now, but you're only really able to move to where the door used to be. So now we just remove the barrier itself, so they can just run around freely.
Yeah.
Okay, so in response to the actual question, applying that to Barrows, I suppose it wouldn't necessarily apply in the same way. And I don't know if it's even a problem. A lot of the chat saying, no, we should apply a similar sort of mechanics to Barrows tunnels.
Yeah.
Plus the
I guess
chat.
the issue with Barrows tunnels as well is obviously there's a lot of enemies in there, so we couldn't just not block the rooms because it would destroy the distribution of the enemies in that area probably. And two, a lot of players spam the doors basically to get enemies they need to fight to get their percentages up.
Yep.
So I wouldn't want to stop them doing that either.
I think one of the problems is when somebody goes through a door, nobody else can click it.
Yeah.
We might be able to tackle that in a different way, but we can't apply the Farming Guild stuff to
No.
Barrows. Also, people's doors and Barrows change depending on which layout you've got, so that's another problem.
Sure. All right. Well, that answers that then. I'll move on to Neon's question. They want to know what our thoughts are on expanding the prayer book. Rigor and Augury are very nice, but what about a toned-down version of the ancient prayers? So my goal isn't only to reach 82 prayer, but rather up around 95.
I don't feel there's any reason to add curses or even toned down versions at all. Like, I am more than open to new ideas for new prayers to be at the top end and flesh out the skill, but I don't see a reason to just push the meta beyond Rigor and Augury for no reason.
100%.
I'm very glad Kieran is laying down the law here. Like, no, we are the developers. I am the developer. We are not interested in this whatsoever. This is not part of our vision for the game. Even if I wanted these spells to be here, or I mean not the spells, these prayers to be here, I would be at least relieved to know that they have a clear enough vision of where they want to take the meta, if they even have a vision, or even if they want to take it anywhere. That's just assuming they want to. But that they definitely don't want to take it in this direction, and that's it. End of discussion.
Just because there doesn't happen to be anything above 77 doesn't mean we need to push something in there that doesn't fit.
Also, real quick, I really like when Kieran says there's no reason to push the meta for no apparent reason. Because in the last Q&A review, I gave them a hard time, kind of, for saying why not so often to so many suggestions. Or not so many, but like a fair number of suggestions that came in the last Q&A. I was very critical of like the why not attitude. And I very much wish this attitude that Kieran has about these curses or whatever they're called. I don't know anything about PVM or PvP, don't ask me. Whatever they're called. I'm very glad he has this vision of where he wants it, or of where it's going to go in this game. As a developer, he has this great vision. And I wish there was like a Kieran for skilling in old school. Because when it comes to anything skilling related, it's more like, yeah, why not? And we'll see what the community thinks. It's not just like, no, this goes against our vision for skilling in this game, and that's it, end of discussion. I would like to see more of that.
Not a fan of Turmoil personally, or Soul Split.
Yeah.
It would just buff. It would be a buff for nothing other than a buff. No reason for it. So
Sure. I just wonder, I think we're quite limited in terms of what combat boosts we can have at the very top end after Rigor in particular. But if you guys have any ideas, do let us know.
He makes a very valid point. Like, we are limited. Like, that begs the question, when is there a completion point? And if not, to what extent are you willing to take update? Well, I suppose there's always room for improvement, but I don't know. It does beg the question, like, will combat ever stop being updated so significantly? Like, when will? I guess it's not really updated very significantly anymore. Like, all like T-bow, blowpipe. Most of the other stuff is already in the game. I can't see anything being stronger than T-bow or blowpipe entering the game, but the mods could prove me wrong. I didn't say anything like Zaya runecrafting entering into the game, but it did, lo and behold.
We're not going to be able to think of something right now on the top of our heads, I guess, unless someone does have a suggestion. But yeah, probably not curses.
the only thing it gives you right now is obviously prayer pots go further.
Yeah.
And you get combat levels, so if you want max.
It has to make sense as well. Some people are saying, well, what about running prayer? So prayer that replenishes your run. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, it's kind of strange on that.
I don't know.
Super smite.
Just saying your prayer potions are not energy potions.
Super Smite exists, isn't that the red one? Dustin asked.
In all seriousness, just before you move on, the idea of so regardless of a prayer, whether a prayer buffs your run energy, like, or reduces the amount you use run, slightly related topic, but I still think run energy is a problem in this game. Right? It's all well and good once you've got graceful, and you can go to the G and purchase stamina pots. Firstly, if you're free to play, it's awful. Secondly, until you've literally, the first thing you've got to do on an account is pretty much just go and do your agility level so you can get the graceful and don't have to walk anyway, which is a pain.
Yeah.
I would like another idea of what we can do towards the lower end to soften that blow a little bit, because your run runs out so fast. what other thing can we add that would make a difference to help with that problem? I see a lot of shouting for rest. I don't know how people feel about that. Obviously, that's something that was added in RuneScape.
Is it possible to set up a straw poll to see how the players feel about resting?
I think walking is very... Back to that explicit definition of the old school feel, being the set of limitations that you must abide by as a player of the game. I think it's very much within the old school feel to have to walk to places until you level up. Sure, it's annoying, but there are a lot of annoying things in RuneScape that make RuneScape. There are a lot of limitations that make the game more challenging, but also that makes the game more rewarding and more unique. So, I would probably oppose resting. The only way I would vote in favor of resting is if within the poll of resting, if resting were added, it would include a nerf to the rooftop courses. Like, that's the trade-off. We're gonna nerf rooftop courses, but you get resting. That's the only circumstance I'd vote for resting. And that is, well, that's the only foreseeable, and I use that term extremely liberally. The only foreseeable condition that I would vote for resting.
Because we're seeing a lot of people I know this is quite a contentious one. People with high agility don't want it devalued, of course, but like Kieran says, it is a problem.
So interesting, we got the suggestion of this very basic novice quest to free-to-play, where you help out these musicians who've had all their instruments, they've run into a bunch of thugs who took their instruments off them, stole them, but you helped them out. You got them their instruments back, you fixed them, and after you do that quest, these musicians are now in the world, and you can go and rest at them as you go by. But in all seriousness, as much as those might help, they have to be literally everywhere to really make a difference.
So there's some real negative sentiment for rest. I think part of the reason might be that it's reminiscent of obviously RuneScape, and so people in old school want to say, "Oh, our game is different. We don't want that. That's in their game." But there needs to be a real reason. I'm not an advocate of it. I'm just saying there has to be an actual reason.
I just think
Mod Archie should watch my videos, and he'd get his real reason.
when you start the game, right? Think back to when you start. You appear in Lumbridge.
Actually, yeah, send this video to Archie. Add him on Twitter. Timestamp this part of the video where I give an actual reason. I'd very much appreciate that. Let's see if he gives a response. I don't like promoting my own stuff. That's why I ask you guys to do it. I apologize.
One of the first things you want to do after you've picked up some cash, and maybe you want to go to Stronghold Security, that's a hell of a walk. Then you want to go to the GE. There's a lot of walking at the start if you know what you're doing firstly as well.
Oh,
I
no,
wonder if it's
walking.
I had to do it, so they have to do it.
There's a lot of that.
That does happen sometimes, I think. I like to think most of our
Well,
players-
maybe part of the old school experience is not having a teleport next to every single important thing in the game available to you instantly.
better than that, and they understand it's the future of the game that's important.
I mean, one of the ways that kind of offsets a bit of the run energy at the moment, a little bit, is the purple fruit from his city's farm stalls, or the thieving from those stalls rather. But again, I think as they're on trade, you got to go get that yourself, and that's you got to grind for that quite a bit.
That's not the same as the strange fruit.
It's a strange
okay.
fruit, yeah.
Am I right in saying the Chaos Elemental drops that as well? If you can make it that far, you have to walk there, I guess. So we've got enough votes in on the straw poll. We asked if we should add a rest option, and 54% of you are in favour, and 46% are not. So
That's a little scary. Adding rest with no other precondition. Apparently, I don't know much about World of Warcraft, if anything, but apparently in some expansion they added I think they added flying or something? I don't know. But flying created a huge problem because it eliminated so much of the experience of traversing the landscape. I guess that issue wouldn't really apply to adding rest, though it does apply to adding teleports everywhere, so maybe I was inappropriate to bring that up right now. I apologize.
Rest is a very mixed bag. I'm not too surprised. But another option I think we have. So, what is the graceful set effect? I can't quite remember exactly what it does.
Reduces run energy used?
Yeah,
Essentially.
pretty much,
I can't remember
yeah.
exactly
It
how
makes
it
it so that you run out slower, basically.
Yeah.
But what I would like to do,
Faster.
And that as well, I think.
what I'd like to do is make that scale per piece. So if you wear one piece of graceful,
Thought it did.
you get a fifth of that boost. If it doesn't already, I don't think it
Yeah, you
does.
have to
It doesn't already. You have to wear the whole thing to get the set effect.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which, yeah,
I'm not even sure of how the graceful effect works, but I was under the impression that it only when you wear the whole set, it would regenerate your run energy more quickly whenever you were walking or standing still. I'm not sure if that's but besides reducing weight, I'm not sure if that's the case, but I think that I don't think it literally slows the rate at which you lose energy other than the weight reduction, but you could get weight reduction from other things.
it makes it regen faster when you're not as well.
It does make you lighter though, which
Makes you lighter, so it reduces the...
30% faster regen according to the chat.
There we go.
So 30%, if you wear just the top, maybe you get 5%, whatever the factor is.
Yeah.
That's a good
And I
idea.
think that would make a big difference because forget the set, I think it's like 50 odd, 60 odd agility, depending which courses you do. That's a lot. So if you can only do the level 30, you've got enough for one set. That seems reasonable. One piece, that's reasonable enough for me.
people are
I think that
saying
would make a big difference.
people are saying that's only when standing or walking.
Yeah,
There
so
you
the
go.
regen's only when you're not running.
Right.
I was right.
So basically,
Aha.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do
Go
like the
figure.
idea of having a scale for each piece that you've got. That'll at least make skill capes viable on farming runs again. Bring back a bit of fashion scape. So we'll move on. We've got Dustin who says, can we consider nerfing black d'hide armor? Its magic defense in particular is too high and just generally is too powerful for how easy it is to obtain.
I know I talk about nerfing stuff a lot, but I usually refer to like the higher end stuff. I know Black d'hide is not well, I guess it is kind of higher end, but it's not like the highest of high ends. So I'm not a PVM or PvPer. I am not qualified to answer this question.
Well, what are your thoughts?
I'm in favor.
In favour?
Yeah, definitely.
So I think this is the problem with this one, is that it's only really a problem with PvP.
Yeah.
And magic defense actually doesn't do that much. when
It's
a
true.
PvM.
Could we do this only for PvP?
No, not particularly.
Ah.
Just not the way the PvP stats work.
I was convinced
we
you were
could
gonna
do,
say
we could do a massive, we could do a pretty massive job of making armor have different stats for PvP and standard, but that just not really approachable.
Blowpipe does. Blowpipe is slower in PvP, which I think is indicative of how overpowered it is. But I will say I'm glad they brought up Blowpipe in this discussion. I'm very glad to hear that. Now just fix it before launching your new shiny update.
Yeah.
Magic defense doesn't do a whole lot of much in
Yeah.
PVM anyway.
And there's
really.
not a massive difference from d'hide to Armadillo or Carol's. The gap's tiny. So
Like,
I mean, I
Carol's
agree in
should be a lot
principle.
stronger, right?
I agree in principle. d'hide is very strong for what it is, but I don't know if we can approach changing it. I don't know how.
There's another thing I wouldn't mind raising a bit, which is a little bit similar, which is range, specifically PvP again, sorry guys. Ranging in full melee is still very
Yeah, I thought you
viable.
might say
Right.
that.
So you can MSB torso, runeplate legs,
Yeah.
berserker helm, and you're still gonna be able to hit 20s and you'll do fine. You don't need to bring range armor switch, and then you can just switch into your
Nerf.
melee weapon.
Yeah,
Nerf.
as long as,
Well,
as long
actually,
as you're not...
he brings up a good point, but maybe there's a really good meta that would be destroyed if they were nerfed. But again, I'm not PvP or a PVMer, so some of it sounds good, but I'm not going to say yes, this should be this way. No, this shouldn't be this way, like I would when it comes to skilling and other things that I'm very strongly opinionated about the game. So I'm sorry I cannot supply more feedback on these type of questions.
wearing like a plate body or something, your range is totally fine for
Yeah.
hitting, which is not great for PvP. You just stand there in tank armor.
Should we add more sort of negative range stats then for those pieces, I guess, is the answer.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have a little bit of that with melee, with some range pieces giving you negative melee stats. You obviously have that with magic. You can't cast magic in melee or range gear. But with range, you can do it with anything, and you're still going to be good.
So, I guess as a sweeping change, how would people feel about negative range offensive stats and negative magic offensive stats being, made a lot harsher on melee equipment?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously with balancing, we wouldn't be able to pick any numbers right now, but if we could put something together and then put it out maybe for testing, or maybe even in a beta world, let people try it. But to rebalance the combat triangle.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Quite honest.
Seems like quite a strong yes reaction in the chat to that.
It gives each combat style more of an identity.
I do want to point out, it's really funny. It sounds like I would venture to say most of the chat are not PvPers. So when it comes to nerfing PvP stuff to make it more balanced as a whole, then it's like, yeah, that sounds fantastic. But when it comes to PVM, what people really like doing, what a lot of people really like doing, is like, no, don't nerf that. So, just thought I'd point that out.
I think that's good. It should be that way. That's the whole point of the combat, right? It's set on this triangle idea. So it
This
doesn't
isn't
make
even
sense to be
just
able to-
PvP. This will obviously affect the whole game.
Yeah.
So
It would affect the whole game, but it would affect PvP a lot more. But I guess Kieran said that because he was surprised with the positive reaction from the community. He's like, "Are you sure you want this?" But it's like, this is I can't say. I'm not gonna say conclusively it's a good thing or a bad thing. It sounds like a really good thing, but it's like, develop your own game.
But it's something we'd have to consider carefully. We don't want to be too harsh. You're still going to be on range. Firstly, it's not going to affect your max hit. If you get lucky and hit, you can hit anything.
Yeah.
But obviously, you can make hitting a 0 much more likely.
So we're actually running out of time very quickly for the number of questions I've got. I'm going to go through these a bit quicker now, just to make sure we can get as many in as possible. Julia asks, I suppose this is more for the devs, there have been a few cold fixes recently to patch something without waiting until Thursday for the update. Can you elaborate on what can or cannot be hotfixed and why?
I guess it's hard to explain without having a better understanding of the code base, but essentially, if it's server script, we can hotfix it.
Yeah.
If it requires information that's downloaded onto your client, we can't hotfix that. You can only download that new stuff with an actual update. So generally, though, we can sometimes hotfix around it. So we can put in clever solutions. Like, we can't edit the map, for example. So we can't map a new NPC down or map an actual wall down or something like that. However, we can spawn that dynamically in server script. So tricks we often use is somebody walks into Ports of Rim and there's a missing crate. When somebody walks into Ports of Rim, we spawn a crate.
Yeah.
And as long as there's a crate there, we don't spawn another one. So that sort of thing. So we can do clever little things. But yeah.
Cool, thank you. I think that's as good an explanation as can be. I mean, it makes it nice and simple for people like me who
That's an interesting question. I like that.
Another player wants to know if we can get a Headhunter NPC to trade in spare KBD and Calfight Queen heads for a chance at the pet and maybe some Slayer XP. I really like this idea. Can we extend it to Vorkath?
Probably not Slayer. Like, Slayer's been so buffed already. I'd be in favor of Slayer XP if they nerf Slayer in some way, like as a compensation. I think it's a cool idea, but like, if you want to buff Slayer, nerf it first. If you want to buff Slayer in a creative way, then nerf it in ways that nerf the buffs that have not been creative. I'm not sure what would be a good example. Like, Slayer jewelry is like a straight buff, and if you could like somehow eliminate Slayer jewelry and then put this in instead with the head's Slayer XP buff, then I would support that completely. That'd be fantastic.
Because I have quite a few.
No. I don't like this idea, no.
I don't personally feel like I want
No.
to do that.
Oh, I'm feeling a mixed vibe in the chat.
I'm feeling like this is one of the
Yeah,
that
exactly.
we should sweep under the carpet. Just not.
No, I don't think we should.
I would rather cash it in for Slayer
Lots of
points or
yeses.
something like that.
Okay, that's fair. Maybe not for the pet. That's probably a bit strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless of the
Yeah,
rate.
I would say the pet is strong. Pet pretty. I forgot. I forgot about. I jumped on that question so quickly. Completely forgot about the pet factor. But Slayer XP, I think would be good, as long as Slayer is nerfed in some way.
Roman says, can we get Otto the Barbarian to teach us to smash jugs as we can with vials? They're cheap food, but the remaining jugs can be annoying.
Jugs are a lot stronger than
They're
glass
made they're
vials.
metal, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
I understand where they're coming from, though. So places like Wintertodd, it's annoying to see all the jugs on the floor.
Get over
Fire
your.
field-
Get over your. You listen. You have Wintertot to train fire making. What more can you ask for an effort, for a method that takes so much less effort and that's so much less tedious?
I don't have to turn it off either. I would like jugs on the floor and stuff at Wintertime. We should solve that in the first place because that's annoying.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not going to be changed. People won't be doing this mini game or whatever it is that's required just to do that. Not everybody, at least.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's still going to be a thing.
Yeah, because it mostly annoys other people who aren't actually using the wine anyway.
There's a couple of places. Wintertime, Blast Furnace, where people drop stuff on the floor and it becomes annoying when you need to walk to specific tiles. Those we should address otherwise. But in terms of smashing up jugs when you're drinking them, if it's a big thing, absolutely, it's not hard. So
Yeah, that's reasonable. Vixer, another PvP question. Vixer asks, can we see some more changes to the standard spellbook? Currently, it's abysmal for PKing.
I am massively in favour of, quite passionate about this,
are you a lover of the normal spellbook or something?
removing the half entangle and half freezes with the normal spellbook. I think it should be a full freeze. They're expensive, they don't do any damage. You run normals as it is. You're not,
You're carrying a lot of runes for all these different spells that you're PKing on the normal spellbook with as well.
What's that?
You're carrying a hell of a lot of runes as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Like, Is all your inventory taken up just with runes for those spells?
It has sidewalk, yes, that is the thing.
Yeah,
That does.
That's what makes it better than terrible.
that's what it's used for, basically.
How is the damage output now with the flame book and whatever it's called?
Fire Surge.
Fire Surge is
That's what fire surge.
super strong, but again, if you're going against people in D'hide, you could still splash 10
Yeah.
times. You could splash your freezes a couple of times, and then they're gone.
Okay. So the answer is yes, we would like to buff the standard spellbook.
I would. If we share that opinion, that's great.
Yeah, especially if we're
shall we
rebalancing
do-
range and stuff, rebalancing negative stats on armors and things anyways.
Yeah.
And looking at Black D'hide, potentially looking at the spellbook at the same time is not out of the realms of possibility.
Sure. I mean, actually, you and I, Monroe, we were talking about Entangle earlier, weren't we?
Yeah.
Because the half when you're wearing, the half time of those spells don't apply to Barrows, even if you're praying mage. So it seems that they've been quite. Well, I don't know if it was a nerf. I think they were released like that, but yeah, they're not particularly strong. Moving on, we have Derp asking to avoid immersion breaking, have Konar give players a stone tablet rather than the keys, which have been suggested in the current poll. When you roll on her table, you could have a message display saying you feel that Konar approves of your efforts to restore the balance, and you add a notch to the stone. You can then have a right-click op, which would let you check the tablet for how many notches you've got.
What? So your character just decides.
Yeah.
I feel Konar would be proud of me. I'd scratch a notch.
This is the suggestion. Or something similar. The idea is to have essentially stackable keys or whatever the item is going to be, but it would mean having to take this thing with you and then presenting it to Konar when you want to get the reward.
I feel at the end of the day it doesn't make much difference.
No. Just seems quite convoluted.
I think the keys work quite well already to solve the fact there's a problem with how does it make sense. The keys do a lot to do that. You take them back to Konar and we should be all right. If there's still problems after that, we'll look to see what we can do.
Sorry, Derp. Adamena asks if the sections in the collection log could have their header text turn green when they're completed.
Seems entirely reasonable to me, should you ever manage to complete one.
Yeah.
I think the reason we decided not to have this from release was it's difficult to complete. And no one's realistically going to complete the whole thing. Watch someone do it now. But the length of time it would take to get all of the third age, among other things.
Evil chicken.
Look how hard it is to get the whole every pet.
Yeah.
I know one person got every pet. Did they get the Hydra pet yet? Do you know?
Not that I know.
So currently, I don't believe anyone in game has every pet.
No.
That's only one part of the collection log, let alone every third age item. So
And every evil chicken outfit piece as well, which is quite a tricky one.
So this was the reason we didn't want to do it initially, because it would look it would be dissatisfying to have some green sections knowing that you'd almost guaranteed to not complete the other ones. But if it's something you guys want, we can look at doing it.
I'm going to jump in and grab a random question. Sorry for wasting time. Somebody said, can a JMod nerf or buff an account?
what with luck?
Yeah,
Or just
thinking like as a punishment for being a bad player and breaking rules and such, we could even further, reduce your
that feels like,
rare
like
drops.
Wow.
We don't even tell you. We just don't like you, so we turn down your luck variable.
Yeah.
Yeah, just imagine you were like cheating in the game, and then now your drop rate of getting a whip is twice as rare.
We make it seem run energy runs out 5 times faster.
Yeah. Also the maximum weight as well.
Sorry, it's irrelevant.
I like this.
Tunak asks if I like this suggestion actually, asks if the magic Secateurs could function as Slayer gems do, but for farming contracts. So give them a right-click option which would check things like what your current contract is, the status of your plant, so diseased, not diseased, and the growth stage that they're in.
Use geomancy.
I would prefer to go down the route that Guildmaster Jin gives you like a scroll that you keep, and that's what updates it, rather than attaching it to the Magic Secateurs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of yeses though.
I just wouldn't want to attach it to the Magic Secateurs as well, because if not everyone can get them all the time, and you'd have to finish the quest first to get them, which would just lock out people from getting them for a while. Or, a Slayer gem, anyone.
I know I just said geomancy, but I don't even know how geomancy works. Of course you get all the yeses, people want the convenience, but I'm glad they're shutting this suggestion down. At least it seems like they're going to shut it down.
Can get from any Slayer Master, but if we get Magic Secateurs, they're stuck behind a quest.
Yeah, I do find myself sometimes logging in and then thinking, what's my contract? So then I have to run to Jane and then I have to just go to the contract. So if I hadn't done it, that would make it better.
Attaching the Secateurs does lock it behind a quest completely separate. If you're doing farming contracts, you should be able to access the thing.
Just go to the Guildmaster and talk. What's wrong with talking to NPCs in old school RuneScape? I don't understand. Just talk to They exist for a reason. Talk to the Guildmaster. If you don't remember, that's on you.
Lets you see what contract you have.
Can you NPC contact her to find out?
She's not
on that menu.
Would that be a good idea?
Probably more
These things
It
on
would
the
still be
NRS.
locked, obviously with Luna spells.
yeah.
But we could add a two NPC contacts and then give this scroll thing as well, which would make it available to everyone.
In all seriousness, we could add the scroll, we could add the Secateurs, we could add we could do all of these things, and it satisfies everyone, hopefully. So yeah, we can do all of that.
Okay.
It doesn't sathify me.
So in essence, the idea is good. We'd like to do it where it comes up, probably just a scroll or something.
So on the topic of magic Secateurs, I'd like them to make it so that they work in your inventory.
Yes.
So the buffing effect. On
this
I would also like this as well.
a lot of people want this, but I'm not a fan.
having to equip them is just annoying.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense though. They're magic Secateurs because when
They're still in your bag.
No,
the ones you're using.
your
They
hand.
do make sense though, because you can't even wield other tools. Like a spade, you don't wield. It's just in your inventory.
Yeah.
I will say it does make sense that using tools that aren't equipped is very well established as to making sense in this game. So even if it is less convenient to wield the Secateurs, it's still consistent. I don't know.
You're still using those Secateurs.
Yeah.
It's not like you've got a second pair of Secateurs you magically pull out of thin air.
You can use an
just
axe
because you
without
have
wielding it.
not wielding magic Secateurs.
I think you should be holding tools for them to work, but that's just me.
Well, you can't hold seed bibbers.
Cow.
Consistent.
Yeah.
We need to fix that then.
It is magic secrets too.
Lovely.
Scarecrow asks, what do you think about Ironman accounts paying protection to clans to farm revenants? The Ironmen have to use another account to trade them the gold, and the benefits are massive due to the supplies and cash dropped by the Revs. It seems against the spirit of the game mode.
It does.
Let me listen to this.
To farm revenant asks, what do you think about Ironman accounts paying protection to clans to farm revenants? The Ironmen have to use another account to trade them the gold, and the benefits are massive due to the supplies and cash dropped by the Revs. It seems against the spirit of the game mode.
Yeah, this should absolutely not be allowed.
It does. But how are we going to moderate that? How are we going to
Exactly,
stop
that's
people
the
from...
problem. How are they going to enforce it? Very difficult, but maybe they could, I don't know, monitor gold transactions and levy extremely harsh punishments for it. People love their accounts, and they'll be less likely to abuse something if they know that their account's going to get permanently banned for breaking that rule.
Offering their services, their protection services, which are not indefinite. They can die.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. That one's a bit...
I'm personally not convinced it's much of an issue. It is a multiplayer game. I understand that an Ironman is supposed to be working by themselves, but...
In an ideal world, if we played Iron Man, we'd give you a single-player world, but we can't do that.
Yeah.
There's certain problems we're always going to run into. It's just sort of how it is, I think.
Can I ask a somewhat related question? Not really related at all, actually. Monkey Madness 2 tunnels, the meta is to have a couple different accounts following each other like that. What are our thoughts on that?
There's nothing we can really do about it.
That's how the game works.
Wait, hold the phone. You can absolutely do something. How many worlds are there? I don't even know. But you could. It should be one of the easiest things to look into the monkey bat. Even have like your bot detection system check if someone's standing in a certain spot for a certain period of time, getting a certain amount of XP with 2 accounts following them in circles. If they're an Ironman, then that's clear. Training, the method Archie just brought up is not something that's ambiguous to detect. It's extremely easy to notice if someone's doing that method or not. You have 2 people it's they're shuffling in and out. They're doing when 2 people follow each other, they're doing the dance, and then you have your one dude who's your Iron Man or whatever, your account killing the monkeys. That's extremely obvious. It's extremely maybe you could say, well, you don't know if these 2 people are trying to troll this one Iron Man guy to get him banned, and I guess that's a reasonable argument. But I think risking dealing with that would be much better than allowing this. That's the whole, when you bring an Iron Man mode, that's what you bring with you. That's part of the spirit of the mode. And it would be a shame if that were disregarded due to the difficulty of dealing with it. Especially in that scenario. That scenario specifically, I think, is very, very policeable. Because then you end up with Altscape, where you can have accounts give you XP buffs and even money, which I and many others feel is very against what old school should be as a game. But I digress.
Oh yeah. Multiplayer game.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are in the wilderness. If you don't like it, go kill them. If you can't kill them, well...
Get a team together and go kill them.
Yeah, if that works.
Yeah, get more people. And then more people.
A similar sort of thing applied
I muted myself in my short little rant, but the gist of my argument was that, number one, the monkeys in the Monkey Madness 2 tunnels are like when the people are doing the method where you have the two accounts following each other, shuffling in the monkey in and out while your main account barrages. That's very detectable, very policeable, and they should enforce that against Ironmen. But in the wilderness, what they could say as an excuse, maybe not as an excuse, but as a reason not to police the use or the assistance of other players for Ironmen, is saying, well, in the wilderness, it's free for all, anything goes, as long as it's like, as long as you're not, obviously not anything, not out of world, but the wilderness is like, the wilderness is the wilderness, you go into it, it's free game, it's free game.
But I like the argument that anyone can do that, anyone can get a clan together and fight them as a clan, and if that's what's happening, then so be it. It's a multiplayer game and you are supposed to fight other people and deal with the situation that arises. We don't want to handhold players through every little thing.
Oh, hold the phone. You don't want to handhold players to every little thing? That's not a shock, but it's a little surprising. Like it's considering the degree of quality of life and the degree to which third-party clients are so popular and people are literally addicted to them to the point that they won't play the game without a third-party client they would quit the game. They claim they would quit the game without the use of a third-party client. I think the handhold is real.
That's my opinion on the matter. Saitama wants to know if we can get Elite Void helmet and gloves to match the set.
What do they do?
Just make
doesn't say what
them
they
look
do.
different. I assume it's just make them look different because obviously.
Probably give it a prayer bonus.
Yeah.
I wouldn't support giving it the extra attack bonus or range bonus.
No.
Maybe prayer, if it's not already overpowered.
Void's already very strong, is the thing.
Yeah.
Lots of no's in chat. I think sort of maybe if the design is right, but otherwise I don't see a particular need for it myself. Anon, we haven't had many lore questions, so I'll squeeze this one in. This player wants to know if we could see a storyline that ties the lizard men of Zaya to the Ham members of Gillinor as another way to sort of intertwine the two lands together.
We want to do more with lizard men. There's a lot of story to tell there, and it sort of screams for it when you want to see that temple and everything about the lizard men. But they're not related to the Ham whatsoever.
Maybe the Ham could go on an expedition. They could say they've heard about these horrible creatures in Zaya and they want to go hunt them down.
A group of 12 people from Lumbridge. Good luck to them.
Yeah.
The Ham storyline is completely separate, and they're focusing on the goblins.
Okay. So yeah, we are looking for ways to tie Zaya to the mainland lore-wise, but maybe that's not the route. I like the idea. Okay.
We had Little and Big Mo ahead of time for whoever remembers that.
Something I did want to cover. This player wanted clarification on how the key that monsters on Clonar's tasks, that they drop, how it will work. There's been some confusion possibly around the wording of the poll question.
Yeah.
So to clarify, it's not going to replace the normal drops on that monster's table. In the same way that when you roll on Konar's table, it's an additional drop. It's replacing that instead. So it's not going to stop you from a chance of getting a boss unique or anything like that. It's not affecting the drop rates or the tables in any way. It's literally just a different way of catching them in, essentially.
So you get a stack of keys. I believe you take them to a chest next to Konar. Open the chest, get the same loot you would have got previously on the floor. It just adds, it's an extra step, but it makes it more thematically.
That's a question as well. Are we going to make this key stackable from the chat?
Well, there is demand for it.
That would solve the Konar tablet thing from earlier. Or maybe have it like Konar's coins, where you get a coin drop and then you sell these coins to Konar, or Konar lets you have like a go within the chests for every coin or something like that.
Seems reasonable that it's stackable to me.
Okay. So it sounds like we're leaning towards making them stackable. Okay, so that actually brings us around to the end of the stream. There's a few things I want to say before we go, which is don't forget !new mod to check out Mod Tide, who's just joined the team. He's our new junior content dev. Follow him on Twitter to see what he's getting up to. Watch your player inbox and email on Friday for any messaging around warding to get your opinion. There's going to be a survey going out. Please let us know what you think. And keep an eye on the news page of the website. It might be up already, but there's going to be a James and Zarek blog for some changes. Like I say, have a look at that. I guess that about rounds it out. I'd like to thank everyone who joins me on the sofa today. And we'll catch you next week.
Alright, so, One thing I didn't do at the end of the last Q&A video is actually give my review of the Q&A as a whole itself. So I thought this was a really great Q&A. They brought up a lot of good questions. I think Mod Gambit is he's a really good passive host. I probably would prefer someone more active, but he's like, here's the question, what do you all think? And he is a community manager, so maybe he's not like the expert on certain aspects about the game. Maybe he is. I don't know. I know he's not new, but like relative to like Kieran and Archie, he's a newer member of the team. But I like Mod Gambit hosting them. Something Grandelicious did at the end of his Q&A reviews is that he labeled like a JMod of the week based on how he felt about their performance and their answers in the Q&A. So I would have to give that to Archie. He brought up ranged as an issue, and I'm very glad he did that. I very much like how he is looking out for the interests of the PvP community. I wish there were someone in skilling who looked out for like particularly the higher end level of skilling. Because I will always contend that it is important to understand why your most dedicated players enjoy your game. So if you ever make a change that is not approved by your dedicated players, then you'll understand if your casual players tend to lose interest in your game. Because even if casual players can't articulate or don't seem as affected by certain changes that more strongly affect the dedicated players, ultimately the dedicated players are more closely attuned to what makes certain parts of your game more enjoyable. So when those elements are made less enjoyable for them, then I strongly believe at a, maybe not as significant, but at least at a subconscious level, in the very least at a subconscious level, it will tend to negatively impact newer players and make it less convincing for them to become dedicated players. But that is all I have to say. I'm very glad how this Q&A worked out, and I hope to see you all here next time because I plan to keep doing these.